Speech is the main form of communication used in our culture. We are all capable of making a wide range of noises with our mouths, and as the word enchantment suggests, the voice has played a powerful role in magic in all ages and cultures. The aim of this essay is to examine the ways in which the voice can be used in magic, and suggest exercises which will help the reader to develop the range of vocal techniques. In all cultures, the voice has been an important carrier of power, and most mystery traditions and religions make use of songs, chants, and prose to worship or bring about gnosis. From dramatic choruses to hymn and prayer, from working songs such as sea shanties and battle songs to children's skipping rhymes and folk spells, the power of voice is amazing. Orators, both political and religious, have used the power of their voices to project their charisma and infuse mass audiences. Look at the crowds that Billy Graham attracts, for example. The sound of a spoken phrase can go far beyond its meaning to speak directly to the deep mind. An extreme example of this is described by Nandor Fodor, a Jewish psychoanalyst who notes the effects of listening to Adolf Hitler's rabble-rousing speeches. He had heard these speeches on 2 occasions on the radio, and recalls that although due to its raucous harshness, Hitler's German was totally incomprehensible to Fodor, who was a native Hungarian. He felt that, ever so slowly, my blood began to boil, and I wanted to shout and scream. It was not a rage against him. It was with him, like a flow of lava is with the volcano. Modern politicians very often resort to a speech pattern known as pathic, which combines tone and the pacing of words to project an underlying message that no matter what they are talking about, they are in control, and everything is fine. Don't get alarmed. The waking mind can be easily bypassed, so that meaning is carried directly to the deep mind, stirring the appropriate emotions which the speaker wishes to stir. We can use our voices to convey and project emotional messages very effectively, and tone often betrays our true feelings on a subject, despite what we actually say. Young children are often confused by a verbal threat delivered in a light tone of voice. Therapists and healers can pick up a great deal of information from a client's manner of speaking. The huge differences in accents in a country allows us to identify a person's origin, even though they have been resident in another region for years. Using soothing tones can lull people into relaxive trance states, while shouting and hyperventilating can propel us into excitatory states, as demonstrated by cults such as the Shakers. Elsewhere, we find that the voice can be an aid to martial prowess, ranging from war cries and battle songs to the articulation of short syllables during martial arts duels, which are designed to act as carriers for jinn, or to distract an opponent. Common to many cultures, as is the idea that the correct pronunciation of certain divine names will bring about the end of the world. Also, there's the idea of the rule of names, most eloquently expressed in Ursula Le Guin's Earth-Sea Stories, that if you know the true name of an entity, then you can command it. William Burroughs, in The Place of Dead Roads, puts it another way. As soon as you name something, you remove its power. If you could look death in the face, he would lose his power to kill you. When you ask death for his credentials, his passport is indefinite. This principle is well known to all those who delve into the depths of the psyche, that vague, unnamed fears can be tamed. Once they are recognized, and having been named, can be isolated and drained of their power to terrify. I will be looking in some detail at some of the magical vocal techniques based on this principle later. Bye. Use of voice. The way in which we use our voices is a powerful way of projecting our personalities. The way in which we deliver speech in a given situation can reveal many things, both to ourselves and others, about our feelings. To use speech effectively, we must be 1. Confident. 2. Aware of others. 3. Relaxed. 4. Clear in our thoughts. 5. Aware of how speech affects a situation. With practice and experience, we can learn to use our voices so that we can carry emotions and feelings to others, ranging from stirring people to enthusiasm and action, to lulling gently into relaxation using soft words and tones. Group chants. Group chants are one of the most effective and fun ways of raising energy, especially when combined with dancing, stylized movement, gestures, and swaying. Some of the most popular chants are those taken from Amerindian sources such as I am the circle. I am healing you. You are the circle. You are healing me. Unite us. Be one. Unite us. Be as one. We are at one with the infinite sun forever. 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 Chants like these express and strengthen a sense of belonging, both among group members and with the wider universe. They tend to build gradually, picking up speed as participants feel the rhythm and pulse of the words, creating a momentum that can lead to a trance-like state. The Darksome Night and Shining Moon chant in Wicca is a great example, especially when each line is chanted by a different member. The words encapsulate Wicca's core concepts, the elemental directions, magical tools, and the duality of goddess and god, darkness and light. In the common form of chants, each person repeats the entire verse. The spinning mantra, however, involves one person chanting the first line, the next chanting the second, and so on. This can be done with one consistent note and stress pattern, or by having group members move around, stopping briefly in front of others to chant their lines, which can create a disorienting but impactful experience with a large group. Another simple exercise is the group unpacks. Sitting in a circle with eyes closed, participants take deep breaths and begin a long, drawn-out AUM chant, which need not be synchronized. This can be incredibly relaxing, often feeling as though the Aum itself is chanting through the group. Lastly, hog calls involve one person shouting a sound, call, or statement, and the rest of the group echoing it back. This can be both energizing and unifying for participants. Repetition is a key element in tantric rituals, often seen in the salutations offered to the deity central to the ceremony. For instance, here are a few of the 108 ritual salutations dedicated to Lord Ganesh. Salutations to him with an elephant's face. To him who wields the mace. Humming meditation begins similarly to the group Aum practice, where each participant creates a humming note that can vary in tone and intensity. This humming should continue for at least 20 minutes to allow participants to experience its effects. Soundscapes involve groups experimenting with words, tones, and sound patterns to create an auditory picture suited to a chosen theme. A favorite example comes from an experimental drama group tasked with expressing the theme of sweets. Participants used advertising jingles as mantras, developing individual rhythms to create a unique soundscape. The result was a mix of only the crumbliest, flakiest chocolate tastes like chocolate never tasted before. Sung high and drawn out, hot chocolate, drinking chocolate, chanted quickly. Skip. The concept encourages brainstorming around a theme, choosing words or phrases as a chant's foundation. Soundscapes can heighten or exaggerate moods and inspire group-generated chants for rituals and spellcasting. Singing and chanting hold a powerful impact because they make repetitive or mundane tasks more engaging, especially when paired with a tune or rhythm. I fondly remember the work songs that emerged during the months I spent picking oranges and grapefruits in Israel. They added a spark to what was otherwise a tedious and physically demanding task. Songs and chants create rhythms that not only ease the monotony, but also seem to inject energy, helping everyone stay motivated. They build group spirit and enthusiasm. Rhythm, in particular, plays a key role. It guides our consciousness from the beat of our hearts to cycles of breathing, sleeping, the alternation of night and day, and the changing seasons. Rhythms encourage coordinated body movements and adjustments, signaling us to start moving without much conscious effort and conserving energy. For instance, studies show that soldiers march further and with less fatigue when accompanied by a marching band. This sense of being carried stems from the structure rhythm provides to our perception of time. Giving a sense of continuity, it becomes ingrained as a motor habit, freeing our attention if needed. Rhythms also synchronize with our brain activity and have profound physiological effects. Music therapists have discovered that individuals with conditions like aphasia or Huntington's chorea, which impair speech, can still sing, and group singing is often used in therapeutic voice training. Rhythms surround us everywhere, and group chants and songs reflect this universal presence, enhancing our sense of connection to the world. Modern-day shamans might rely on their silver tongue as much as any sleight of hand or other tricks. The words we choose and their underlying messages can significantly influence any developing situation. Knowing how to speak, when to speak, and perhaps most importantly, when to stay silent, comes with experience, practice, and of course, attentiveness. The deep mind often communicates in verse. Cross-cultural studies on the vocal patterns of people experiencing possession reveal a commonality: a rising and falling intonation at the end of each phrase, punctuated by pauses or groans. This pattern appears regardless of language or culture. In English, this rhythm is known as iambic pentameter. It can also be observed in the passionate speeches of evangelical preachers and the seemingly random flow of words from those overtaken by the Holy Spirit. These expressions emerge from the deep mind as unconscious or deity-inspired poetry. During rituals, individuals overshadowed by a deity often stumble over their words, as if trying to align their speech with the rhythms of the trance. The more complete the possession, the smoother the sacred speech, as the person's self-awareness becomes submerged by the entity. Just as the deep mind calls to us with specific rhythms, we also attempt to reach into our depths through rhythmic speech. Sound, like light, creates rhythms in our brains, as shown by EEG experiments. These internal rhythms mirror the sounds that drive us into varying levels of trance. Whether it's the gentle lapping of water under the moon or the intense frenzy of Pan, if caught off guard and susceptible, their impact can be overwhelming. In his book Sorcery, J.F. Hurley describes a trance state called lata in the Philippines, triggered by a startling sound. Susceptible individuals mimic actions or words they see and hear. Filipino headhunters exploited this by using sharp, piercing cries to immobilize their victims. Bablogs. Another way to explore the power of speech is through meaningless sounds, nonsense words, baby noises, hisses, and bellows. In group settings, this exercise can highlight the role of tone and pitch in communication. It also demonstrates our reliance on words. Without them, we're pushed to find other ways to connect. Screaming and howling can release tension and create dramatic effects, while heavy breathing, panting, or mimicking animal calls can also be impactful. Faces and sounds. An exercise Sheila Brown and I used in our shamanic development course involved participants turning their faces into masks of extreme emotions: rage, fear, hate, happiness, and vocalizing the pure sounds associated with those emotions. The results were remarkable, as the sounds amplified the intensity of the expressions. Interestingly, the happy sound was often the most unsettling for people. Sound projection, a well-known magical voice technique, focuses on steadily projecting sound to a point in front of you. This can involve pure tones or mantras. One exercise involves projecting sound so forcefully that you imagine your body vibrating, then the room, the world, and eventually the entire universe, by which point you should be sweating. Practicing this on a high peak, overlooking a landscape, or atop a tall building enhances the experience. Over time, you may feel as though the sound is flowing through you, rather than from you. When done in a synchronized group, this exercise can yield fascinating results. As with most energy-raising techniques, the more effort you invest, the more energy you generate. Sound carries feedback. For example, some sex therapists teach clients the importance of vocalization to enhance intimacy and connection. Voice and status. Another impactful use of voice is how we project status in different situations. We assign status to one another, not just through visual cues like clothing and posture, but also through speech inflections and the way we address each other. These exchanges happen constantly, though we typically only notice them when something goes wrong. Sociologists suggest that we unconsciously collaborate to maintain these status dynamics. Common examples include teacher-student, master-servant, guru-disciple, and healer-client relationships. The issue arises when individuals get stuck in either a high-status or a low-status role, instead of adjusting their stance based on the context. This is particularly prevalent among professionals who provide advice, such as doctors or tarot readers. Once placed in a high-status position, they often struggle to step down, not out of arrogance, but due to a lack of awareness. A favorite example of status manipulation comes from a friend of mine who worked in a management role at a hospital. It was fascinating to watch him on the phone subtly negotiate favors with superiors and plant ideas in subordinates' minds, just through tone and inflection. Status games are everywhere. For instance, at our local unemployment office, someone walking in confidently, head held high and whistling. Playing high status usually attracts unwanted attention. Conversely, entering looking defeated and overly grateful ensures they remain under the radar. The system seems designed to handle people who push boundaries and make noise. Invocation involves a set of magical techniques that enable individuals to passionately connect with a specific entity, often resulting in the manifestation of certain qualities or knowledge associated with that entity, such as heightened perception or hidden lore. While anyone practicing magic can develop this skill, it is not commonly done. So shamanic practitioners may be called upon to embody a particular entity during events or to create similar experiences in others, known as invoking upon someone. A more intense form of this practice is possession, which is common in shamanic cultures but rare in modern rituals. For instance, Vodun Hungans or Mambos may seek hidden knowledge by being ridden by entities called Loa, who communicate through them. In our culture, overshadowing is more common, where an individual's awareness partially merges with that of an entity. This phenomenon can also occur with actors who, while playing a role, may perform tasks like singing or dancing, which they are typically unable to do, much like magical invocation, using similar techniques such as visualization, speech, For now, the focus will be on voice techniques. Dramatic awareness highlights the similarity between ritual and stage performance, where performers and audiences together create an atmosphere that everyone present can feel. Invocation refers to a set of magical techniques that enable an individual to identify so intensely with a specific entity that certain qualities or attributes of that entity manifest within them, such as heightened oracular perception or. While this skill can be cultivated by anyone practicing magic, it is not commonly pursued, leading to shamanic practitioners often being called upon to embody a particular entity during events or to invoke a similar experience in another person, a process known as, at its most extreme, this trance state can lead to possession, a phenomenon prevalent in shamanic cultures but rare in modern ritual practices. For instance, Vodun Hungans or Mambos may seek hidden lore by allowing themselves to be ridden by entities called Loa, who communicate through them to provide answers. In contemporary culture, a more common occurrence is overshadowing, where an individual's awareness is partially merged with that of the entity. This is also observed in actors who, while portraying a role, may become so immersed in the character that they can perform tasks such as singing or dancing, which they might not ordinarily be able to do. This phenomenon mirrors magical invocation, as the techniques used, visualization, speech, gestures, posture, and sensory elements, like the smell of incense or essential oils, are essentially the same. For now, the focus shifts to the use of voice technique. Delivery, the way we speak, is a powerful tool for conveying our intentions. The delivery of a speech quickly communicates our confidence to both ourselves and our audience. A well-written invocation can lose its impact if delivered in a monotone voice or filled with ums and ahs. By pacing words effectively, a speaker can excite or calm the listener, whether it's themselves or others. A strong delivery of an invocation heightens dramatic awareness in both the speaker and the audience. Think of it as a feedback loop. The more captivating the speech, the stronger the dramatic awareness, drawing people deeper into the ritual atmosphere. During an invocation, others may temporarily act as the audience, shifting between active and passive roles throughout the ritual. The key is to use everything within the ritual space to enhance the atmosphere. Experiment with pacing your speech, breathing more audibly, and adding a tremble or becoming breathless at the climax of the invocation. You don't need to shout to be impactful. A whisper can be just as, if not more, effective than a loud voice. Structure and rhythm. An invocation to a particular figure is often based on a resume of the qualities and energies associated with them. or referring to legends or deeds associated with them. The rhythm given to words when delivering an invocation can quickly generate appropriate moods in those using or hearing them. An invocation to Pan, for example, might have a fast and frenetic rhythm, which leaves the speaker breathless, bringing to mind the wildness of Pan, whilst an invocation to Cronus, god of time, might be slow and ponderous. Remember, rhythms are known to have distinct physiological effects, serving to relax or stimulate breathing and heartbeat. You can create a powerful effect by stressing the same syllables throughout the entire piece, or by repeating certain words or phrases, particularly keywords that are appropriate to the subject of the invocation. Simple rhythms and jingles can be very effective, as they are easily learnt and can be repeated over and over, becoming mantra-like. Many folk spells are of this nature. William S. Burroughs quotes such a spell in his The Place of Dead Roads. Trip and stumble, slip and fall, down the stairs, and hit the wall. There are different approaches to structuring invocations, and one popular approach is to structure the invocation into 3 parts. The first part is a description of the physical attributes of the mythic figure being invoked and is spoken in the 3rd person. The second is a commemoration of the deeds and powers of the figure and is given in the 2nd. Thus, as the speech proceeds, you are moving from a position of describing that figure as a separate being and becoming identified with that figure to the extent that you, for all ritual intents and purposes, become that figure. Following which, for the rest of the group, you are the earthly avatar of a mythic figure. Having taken on the role, you can now act, using the power and attributes of that figure, which can range from delivering an oracular speech to leading a frenzied dance. In the Western mystery tradition, such as it is usual for one person to act as vessel or channel for a mythic figure, and other participants to take on the role of celebrants or congregation. However, in other cultures, it is not unknown for several people at once to become possessed by the same deity. In Haiti, there was once a celebrated case of about 300 people, all possessed simultaneously by the god Legba, who marched in protest of the political situation to the presidential residence. In Western magic, people tend to stick to one approach, usually what they've been taught in a group or coven. This is often a pity, because there are often good alternatives to be found in, for example, the study of drama or oratory. Status shifts also occur in invocations, as noted by Aleister Crowley in his excellent essay on Bhakti Yoga. Liber Astarte. During a vocal invocation, you might begin with the status position of a supplicant, reaching up to a deity, and eventually act with the status of that deity, whilst others will or should regard you appropriately. This often leads to a confusion of roles, as some people find it hard to distinguish between the role someone might take within a ritual setting and how they behave outside of it. Someone who becomes, within a ritual, a goddess should not be treated like one in the pub afterwards. Hence the prime danger in identifying oneself with mythic figures is one of blowing up one's ego to massive proportions. If you continually identify with a figure who reinforces some idea which you have about yourself, all you will do is imbalance yourself towards those particular tendencies. I have known at least 3 people become quite seriously disturbed because they worked exclusively with lunar oracular figures who accentuated their already present tendency to slip into passive oracular trance states. As in all practices, an understanding and continual assessment of one's self in terms of strengths, weaknesses, and ego identifications is necessary. Especially if you are working with others in a teaching or group leader role. I think it's fair to say that the more you put into an invocation, the more intense the effect will be. There are more elements to consider, such as the use of gestures to reinforce speech, the use of lighting and props, smell, taste, music, and stage setting. Of course, the absence of speech can be as equally effective as can be the use of grunts, howls, and cackles. Having an infectious laugh can be a very useful skill as well. You can literally laugh your way out of some situations. The anti-hero Thomas Covenant, the unbeliever, defeated his enemy Lord Foul by encouraging an assembly of shades to laugh. Humor is an important element of ritual, which is often neglected by some of the ever-so-serious people one runs into occasionally. One approach to experimenting with invocations is to assemble a variety of speeches written by other people and try reading them aloud until you hit on a delivery that feels effective. It can be useful to tape such experiments and even use them as background effects in ritual work. Using appropriate music can also be very productive. While it's useful to look at other people's written invocations, so you can grasp the way that structure and rhythm can evolve through the way lines are delivered, it's generally considered better to use your own attempts at invocation. Not only does this build confidence and give you a good feel for what works and what doesn't, but it allows you to build up a close contact with the figure you are identifying with. Generally, it's easier to invoke humanic figures than non-human ones. Using the same principles as an approach to shape-shifting, it would be appropriate for you to observe a particular animal. Look at its characteristic postures, facial expression, its vocalizations, and characteristic behaviors. You would become the animal by close identification with its characteristics. The intensity of trance would probably very much depend on the degree of abandonment that you allowed yourself to have